Hello everyone, my name's Rendi, and for the last almost 10 years I've been going for some of the lowest combat level fire capes in the entire game. And just 6 months ago in this same series, I deemed it to be impossible to get a fire cape at anywhere under 18 combat. But of course, as many of you know now, this series is all about making the seemingly impossible possible, and therefore, I welcome you back to the one and only So although my account creation plan was similar to the 18 combat fire cape, there were some slight differences. Chessbrow was once again the chosen selector of this account's username, and as paranoid as he is, he made sure it wasn't a name that sparked anyone's interest, and for some reason made it sound like a villain out of a Marvel comic.
Super dark.
To begin, I would go about completing some quests which gave me the starting stats I would need in case the account's attempts were actually successful. For ranged, I would cannon from 1 to 10 for a starting level because once again my estimate on the ending range calculation for the cape would be around 14. This is because I would only need to use range in rare instances throughout the cave, and for a 17 combat finish, I would have leeway till about 16 ranged and magic before the next combat level. So the reason my magic and range won't go up so high is because I will mostly be using melee XP in order to poison the NPCs in the cave. For magic, I once again started with 9 magic for Earthbolt, so I could use this spell to warn off bats quickly in waves that I did not want my prayer to drain. I once again quested for 43 prayer, as this is something I had previously talked about and deemed necessary at this low of a combat level. I also went about getting an Artie Cloak and Falador Shield for the attack bonus and 10 prayer point restoration per day recharge, which is very necessary since this will be over a 100-hour cave and will take many days. Now the largest difference in my account preparation this time is that I would be starting with 10 attack instead of 20, something I once said was impossible to do in my last episode on the fire cape due to the fact that I would acquire a lot of unnecessary XP from a third poison on the 360 majors after I failed accuracy because of my low attack level and its natural hit points regeneration. I'll discuss how I overcame this obstacle more later, but for 10 attack, I would calculate the XP off of 10 I would be once after completing Mountain Daughter, which gives 1000 attack XP exactly, so since 10 attack is 1154 XP, I would then hit Dummies and Varrock till 154 XP, finish the quest in order to avoid all hit points experience while starting the caves and remaining 10 attack exactly. The other difference this time was my gear, and by literally only 2 items. Instead of using the Ring of the Gods, I decided to go with something holding a little more accuracy, the Ring of Brimstone. This would increase all of my attack bonuses. I was able to make this switch because I realized on my last 18 combat fire cape, I had around 7 full super restores left, and therefore I calculated the prayer drain rate which would allocate me to perform this switch. And for the last gear switch, well, you can only guess. That's right, the new Black Broad Dagger would now guide me through another even longer 100+ hour cave, and this would be a cave with 5 times the risk while needing 2 times the RNG that its predecessor gave. During the account creation stage as well, I once again had my good friend Chessbra help with deciding the default character account looks, and when I say plurally looks, I mean he literally demanded that I change my hair multiple times because he was paranoid about people looking into the stats of the account that we were walking around on with no other clue as to what we were doing. And lastly, he decided on my final look before entering the fight caves, and of course, well, he once again wanted all the fame for himself. Chessbra! So we have to plan our entry to the caves once again based on a global spawn timer because all of the spawns in fight caves are 1 minute apart on entry. And we're going to be going with rotation number 2 yet again because of the optimal spawns on the higher waves, and this entire cave will be much easier. But before I could go in, Chessbra had one last point of paranoia. I can't even make this up, but Chessbra demanded that I actually enter the caves on a PvP world so no one could have suspicion into my account before the video's release. And from here I descended into yet another 100+ hour challenge where I can't do anything incorrectly for over an entire week. On the earlier waves, I did everything almost identical to how it was handled on the 18 combat fire cape. This was done by making sure I prioritized the ranged NPCs last so I could handle them in one of the 2 projectile diagonal flinch spots on the western wall of the fight caves. As you can see in the footage below, a very early example of this occurred, and many more complex lures happened in the early stages of this cape. From spots such as these, I would once again utilize a rock kick to lower my hit points under the max and ticky back ranger damage while melee flinching the closer NPCs. I also went ahead alongside this account wave by wave on Junior Chessbra in order to test each lure and make sure it was 100% accurate before going in on that wave on my lower level account.
Success!
Now for wave 31 and above, I would use the same general strategy of separating out the range and mage and saving those for last in the diagonal flinch spot. But there was one thing that changed for all of these waves post 31, and that change was dealing with the 360s at such a low attack level without getting too much XP and leveling up to the combat I once had. The problem was directly related to something I once said that was impossible. Although the first poison on these 360s is nothing to worry about and just takes some extra time, well, the second one and possibly even the third was something to definitely look at. This is because on average it would take me nearly 1 hour to get a singular poison off on these 360s, meaning that if the 360 regenerated too much hit points, 1 per minute, over the course of time before the second poison activated, it could result in me needing a third and maybe even 4th poison, therefore gaining me more attack XP and leveling my combat even more, meaning theoretically I could have just started a higher attack level but would still end up at 18 combat instead of 17. So flinching is a much slower attack rate because I'm waiting on the monster to actually get out of combat before I attack it again, meaning at a very maximum capacity I could only hit 10 hits per 1 minute using this flinch method. So I would have to figure out a quicker way to get past this 360 in order to remain at 17 combat. In my experience of doing these very long caves, especially this one, it is best to go the safest route no matter how many prayer points or food it actually costs you. If you had any less attack levels, on average this would make the cape impossible and you would actually get more XP just trying to re-poison it as it regened over and over again every single minute. So therefore now I knew that 20 attack was an essential input for the build.
Wrong.
Well, I was wrong, and there is one way to get quicker DPS and a better chance at killing this thing in only 2 poisons. So now by one tick pray flicking the magic protection prayer and stepping in and out of the Major's melee attack zone at just the right ticks, I would be able to get second poisons off for every single 360 without needing a third poison and while having more than double the DPS. I just simply cannot mess up for hours and hours and hours. And even though I didn't showcase some of the higher wave lures last time, well, I did after all perform some of these with great risk. As you can see by these layouts here, these are probably two of the hardest waves I had to accomplish. Now 56 I'm going to leave a mystery for you guys, but 50... Oh yeah, and did I forget to mention, on some of these majors I flicked them so long that I somehow literally broke their bodies. No chest bra. So obviously the name Sulfur Dark isn't fit for a 17 combat Jad fight, so once again I'm going to change my name on the final wave. The name I chose was one to honor my critics who usually reflect in their own comments that 99% of them still have yet to even watch a second of my content.
Rendi sucks.
By the way, I'm not tick eating for 6 hours when this is a 100-hour cave, and I literally have overhead prayers on. Also, yes, I did edit this video, and it's not just raw footage. So once again, I would first lure Jad over to the poison flinch spot in hopes to get 2 poisons off relatively quick and sequentially in order to put his HP as low as possible before summoning the healers. Once again, if you all didn't know, Jad's healers come out at 160 hit points, not half. And I found out this happened because when Jad was first designed, he was actually supposed to be given 320 hit points, not 250. This is because at the time of his development, the engine can only handle an NPC with hit points as high as 250. So Jad isn't exactly double the combat level of the mages like all other NPCs are in the cave. These mages are 360 combat while he is 702 combat, and this is why he isn't 720, and it's all in the HP level. So I would need to poison him twice, then go under his 160 hit points by a large amount to lure him back then to Italy in order to have a maximum possible time limit to kill both his healers and repoison him. This is because if Jad ever hits back to full hit points, his healers will resummon and the process will repeat. This actually took several attempts because my accuracy on Jad was extremely low, but finally I got 2 poisons off relatively quick, which would almost allocate me for around 2.5 hours time before Jad's HP would return to full. So to take care of the healers as quick as possible and to give me more time to repoison Jad, I would flinch them on the side of Italy while attempting to 2-tick parry flick Jad's attacks. For the last healer, to speed things up a bit, I would take him over to the door where I would red click action the door in order to stall him from healing or doing damage to my character. Now I had nearly 1 hour and 30 minutes to just poison Jad one singular time, but once again we have some bad accuracy and some damn bad RNG. So in the final 20 minutes or so, I had to make a decision. Would I get another opportunity like this? And if so, would it waste too much XP? Probably, so fuck it. Let's max out DPS while we can. So I actually barely just got off that one total damage before Jad's full hit points regeneration, and of course, it was a poison, so now I would just have to poison Jad again and again and again. And after this, I was extremely lucky on every other poison in this Jad attempt, and therefore, somehow I didn't even need to relog. And for Jad, well, once again, he's history. So ironically enough, it's not always just the cape on my back that gets me noticed, not even on an account such as this. So I remembered when completing a Karamja diary earlier, that after winning a game just of fight pits and leaving, well, you keep that red skull over your head. And the reason that red skull doesn't disappear is because whenever they updated Tizhar City with Inferno, well, they added more barriers and removed the prior barrier properties, even in the fight pits area, which removed this skull before. So now I would grab my red skull and fire cape and see what people had to say. Because, well, as some of you all have already put it, this is just a useless account that's only good for wasting bonds at the GE. I wanted to thank all of you lastly for watching yet another episode. If you guys enjoyed the episode, a subscription to my channel once again is greatly appreciated. Also, go check out the other videos in this series. I thoroughly enjoy producing each one, and you might just enjoy watching them as much as I did creating them. I also still have my merch store running, and if you want to show monetary support to the channel, or just check out the designs, you can do just that by going to rendiproof.com or clicking the link in the description. Lastly, I wanted to thank Chestbra for a lot of the graphics and even some of the 3D modeling we decided to take on for a change in this episode. Thank you all for the support, and I'll catch you next time on Lower the Better.